all those stigmas that come with, being blind are starting to happen now, and I don't want it to be a stigma. And so you can get audiobooks and read Braille books and make friends with people and talk on the phone. I'm like, no, that's not me.
This is the I Am Redemption podcast, and today I have three very special guests with me. First, I'll start on my left. We have William Dyson. Then we have Sarah Escobedo. And last but not least, and our main guest of the day is Jesus Baeza. I said it right. I got it.
Right.
All right. I'd like to welcome y'all. Want to start with Jesus, man, if you'd like to just introduce yourself here in a minute, but I'll share my experience and how we got to know each other. Right when I was first getting going in the Austin running community, I remember I'd show up to different runs with different running groups, and I think I had first met you and William together, and I think you were training for something, and I quickly had noticed that you were blind and you couldn't see. And the moment that I saw that, I was super inspired. And I just remember all the days where, I may not have wanted to wake up early and go for a run because it was too hot or too cold. That hit me, and it's like, man, there's people that face this every day, face this decision of whether they're going to go out to run. And, dude, you were always there with a smile on your face, ready to go. And, dude, I just want to tell you, just to start off, dude, that was super inspiring for me, and I couldn't be happier that you're here today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Well, yeah, there was a lot of times when I didn't want to go, but I got up and went because that's what I wanted.
Right.
And I had to think of the end goal, I guess. But, yeah, I was always out there with a smile. Maybe Coach wouldn't, but he was there. Sarah was always there with a smile.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
She's always smiling.
So to be clear, they're your coaches.
Well, I call William Dyson my coach because he guided me through my first half marathon. And I thought it was just run,
Right.
There was a lot more to it. There was the breathing. There was the nutrition. There was, slowing up, slowing, going fast. And there was a lot of it that I didn't know.
Right.
That was just run.
Right.
So I always just called him coach ever since after that. But he was my guide. He was one of my first ones. And then Sarah was also, they're both still guides. But Sarah also guided me for my she didn't guide me, she helped me train for my last marathon. This was back in December. So they were both up there when I didn't want to be there, but since I asked them if they could guide, I couldn't just call them up and like, you know what, I changed my mind. No, since I made the commitment and they made the commitment that I had to hold my end. So.
Dude, that's awesome. So where are you from, Austin? Where are you from originally?
No, man, originally, when people ask me this, I always say it's a long answer. But I was born in Mexico. I was born in a state called Chihuahua, which is on the border with El Paso.
Okay.
And I was 3 months old when they brought me over to the United States. This was back in 83. I was born in 83. And we moved to Southern California, and that's where I grew up my teenage years. And then we moved to Texas, and that's where I've been ever since. We landed in Fort Worth, but, Fort Worth, I never really liked it. Coming from, Southern California to Fort Worth, there was a big culture shock. And I just made my way down to Austin for a while. And then I finally just went back to El Paso because that was the only town in Texas that I knew. Because my godfather lived there, and I would go visit him every summer, Christmas, spring break. So I would hop on a Greyhound from Southern California to El Paso pretty much almost every 3 months when you think about it. So that was the only town I knew, and that was the only place I was comfortable with. And I started to go to college there. And then I eventually made my way back to Austin, and I've been here ever since.
Okay.
So that's the long answer.
Right. Well, I did quite a bit of bouncing around myself, and Austin's the only place where when I finally ended up there, like I had this internal feeling like, oh wait, this is where home is. This is where I'm supposed to be. And in my case, Austin in many ways saved my life.
Yeah, and that's what I thought about El Paso. And I still think about it like that. It's the only place I call home because growing up in Southern California, I grew up in the 90s, so there was a lot of violence, so it was never really home. And the only time I found, peace was when I went to El Paso, my godfather. So it just felt like home there. And I guess because of that, it's like the only city I consider home.
Right.
So even when I go back to where I was born, I mean, I'm a stranger there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. El Paso is beautiful. I've been there multiple times over the past couple of years, and I wouldn't think I'd love it the way I do. So like I could for sure live there, even with it being a military town. It doesn't always exactly feel like a military town.
No, that's a big. You got 3 states in one. You got El Paso. 3 cities. You got El Paso. You got Las Cruces, and then you got Juarez.
Yeah.
So you got 3 different cities coming together.
Right. So, were you born blind, or is this something that happened like progressively?
I was born with a genetic disease, not disease. I think disease is the wrong word, but mutation, I guess you can call it. I was born with it, but I didn't go blind until I was 23, 24, around there.
Okay.
But I could never have a driver's license. I mean, I drove, but I never got the license.
Right.
My dad owned an auto shop, me growing up in California, so I always just got to drive the car inside the shop or outside the shop. That's about it. But no, I could never hold a driver's license. I could never see far enough to do most things, right? But I can still see colors, people, faces, noses, everything. I just couldn't drive until I turned 24. Then it was all gone. Well, not all gone. Sunlight is the only thing that I have left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't mind, so when you're 24 and I mean you're still so young and people are in college and getting jobs and doing all these things, what was it like, if you don't mind me asking, of like that happening when like the sight was at the point where it was then gone? What's your mindset like? What are you going through?
It was hard because I didn't, I was preparing for life like a lot of kids in college, right? Preparing for internships, careers, all that. But I wasn't preparing for what was about to happen. And I knew it was going to happen. They told me when I was 5 years old. And so I was just, every day I was expecting it. It was like, you're going to get a big headache. It's going to last a couple hours. And then it's going to little by little. But it was hard because, like you said, everybody was starting their lives and stuff, and I had to sit down. I was like, I can't just get up and go. Mm-hmm. People are getting up and going. They're moving to a new place. They're going out. They're meeting people. They're getting married. How I can't do that, so how can I do that?
Right.
And that was probably like the biggest challenge is, okay, this guy is going out to the club tonight. How can I go do that?
Right.
Or this guy is starting an internship. How can I let this company know that I'm wanting to apply and I want to get an internship? How can I get the job done? So it was a lot of that kind of thinking. And it was frustrating. There was a lot of moments around that time when, I would just sit down like, man, I can't. All those stigmas that come with being blind are starting to happen now, and I don't want it to be a stigma. How can I change it?
Right.
Growing up, they're like, well, you're just gonna grow up. You can work somewhere, entry phones and stuff like that's not me.
Right. That's not what you want to do.
No,
right?
No, that's not a life. And so you can get audio books and read Braille books and make friends with people and talk on the phone. I'm like, no, that's not me.
Right.
So how can I be me?
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of moments where I was just, sit down and be in my room, and there was a lot of frustration, a lot of depression. And I just had to go through it. There was no way of there was no way around it. Just had to go through it and figure it out.
Right.
So it wasn't overnight. It's still to this day. Sometimes I have to okay, how am I going to do that? But now it's a little bit easier.
Correct. Yeah, there's been a lot of times in, my life or my story where, usually self-inflicted things that I had done to myself, through my journey or whatever. But I think the only way I was kind of able to rationalize whatever was going on in life was to just sit down and be like, well, this is what it is. Like, this is the situation I'm in. There's nothing I can do to change it. So the only thing I can do now is sit here and, feel sorry for myself or do that, or operate under this is just what it is and find a way to move forward.
Yeah.
That's obviously what you've done. And dude, I can't speak enough about, what bravery that takes, what tenacity that takes to not let something like that hold you down and to still be out here living life to the fullest. What eventually got you into running? Or was that just something you had always done?
Well, I did, play sports and stuff in high school. I was on the wrestling team.
You're built like a wrestler.
Thank you. I was on the wrestling
like
team.
that shit. That compliment you was
Yeah.
getting. Get excited.
And I would run, by myself on the track and stuff.
Right.
But I never took it seriously. I was just out there just for a way for me to, wait for my parents to pick me up after school or something. And then when I got to college, when I finally made my way to college, I got on the judo team, and I learned that I had to act for that. And I went all the way up to the pre-trials for the Olympics, but then they wanted me to compete under the Paralympics, and I said no. So I just gave up. That's not me, like I always said.
Right.
And so then I think by me stopping that's, where I had what I was just saying about the whole sitting down, the depression, the frustration, the stress, all that. And finally, years later, I've always been into fitness, so I would always just go to the weight room, and it was like my moment to just, I don't know, feel like a normal person in the weight room, because we're all just picking up weights.
Mm-hmm.
And years later, without sounding too corny, I heard of this guy, which I'm sure you all know, and I looked him up, but his name is David Goggins.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to an audiobook, and I looked that dude up. I was like, man, that dude's a freaking animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting here, and I'm just doing 10 push-ups a day, and I'm like, man, I got to do more, because this guy, he just really motivated me. And then I was like, I want to do running. I could pick up weights all day long, but that's easy. Running, I feel like it's a new thing, whatever. So I ended up with Raw, the running group. And ever since then, I thought it was just running.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. But I felt how hard it is, how challenging it was. And being a part of that group, I met so many people that were, freaking just awesome runners. And I'm like, really? You did that? And you weigh this much and you're this short and blah, blah, blah. I was like, those many miles? Wow. And I was like, I could barely do one or two. But I guess since I saw it as a challenge, then it just kept me going. And then when I got the effects of running, there's all these health benefits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the mental health part that came with it was a big life changer. And that's probably why I've stuck with it for as long as I have. But that started, back in 2019, I think, was when I showed up to Raw.
I think at least 18.
Yeah.
Ran Decker in 19.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah, I was still running back then, so it must have been a while ago. Me and you were opposite. You were first in the weight room, and then you went into running, and then I was first running, and then went into the weight room.
Well, I think you just got to switch it up. But you got to find what
inspires you.
Yeah. What gets you out of bed every day.
Right. Yeah, I was just explaining to somebody the other day. They had asked me about why I had segued into the gym and why I don't really run anymore. And I was like, I run, but it's more for cardio.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I quickly got into the ultra marathons and trail running and stuff like that. And while I loved being good at these races and doing well and placing and stuff like that, it put an added pressure on me. You know what I mean? Where now if I could go run 100K, but if I don't win or if I don't place, now I feel like it was a waste, which is not why I got into running in the first place. Yeah. And so the running, I'll be honest, I didn't love the process. So like if I had run 80, 90 miles a week, didn't love it. Yeah. I did it, but I didn't love it. But then the gym, like I have no goal really. Like I'm not going to do a bodybuilding show. I'm not going to do any of that. But I love the process of the gym every day. That's my medicine each day.
Yeah. Well, when I got to running, I mean, I'm still not a runner. I mean, I run, but I wouldn't call myself a runner.
You're a runner.
Just because.
You ran a marathon. What are you talking about? Yeah,
but it doesn't come that easy to me like it does to Coach and Sarah over here.
Right.
Like I can wake them up at 3 a.m. and they can easily go for miles.
Right.
Like you wake me up at 3 a.m, it's gonna take me a while. I gotta work up to that. First, I gotta work up to waking up at 3 a.m.
Right.
Like it's a different person that's a runner. And my whole life all I could do was walk into the weight room and do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
we gotta get in the gym.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Y'all gotta get in the gym.
I lifted the other day.
Yeah. And I mean, it was hard. When you said about the process, about the 80, 90, I mean, I hate the first mile and the last mile.
Yeah.
But my only goal with running, and it's still the only goal I have, is to not quit.
Right.
And there was a lot of times when Coach, I would tell him, like, dude, can we stop? He's like, no. I told Sarah, can we stop? Yeah, sure. And then as soon as we stop, I'm like, oh.
Pretty.
Yeah. I was like, man, I feel...
And then I yell at Sarah.
Yeah, and then he'll yell at Sarah. But
we get going. We don't stop for long.
No, I stop, and then I realized, I was like, okay, that was a weak moment, let's keep going.
Right.
Or we'll just take a sip of water, keep going. But my only goal was to not quit. Whether I was just out there doing the Tuesday workouts with these guys, or training for my first half or that last marathon I did.
Right.
It was just to not quit. Even, I mean, the marathon took me, 5 hours? But there's people that finished it in freaking, I don't know, 2-something. There's a lot of fast runners out there. But there were, natural-born runners.
Yeah.
So it came easy to them. But if I would have challenged them to a bench pressing contest, I'm sure I'd beat them. But I was in their world, and my only thing was just to not quit.
Right. That's very aligned with how I felt, especially with getting into the running world and especially the trail world, because I would be out running these races and I would end up doing pretty well. And I just remember always looking around and being like, oh, these people have been doing this all their life. I've only been doing it for 6 months, and look at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you 6 months. I mean, I think I did Decker within, I think it took me a month till I finally accepted it. But when I started running with Raw, the second week I went is when I met Coach.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking about Lone Star Beer and Barbecue. And that's how we came, guy and what's my name? I don't even know what I would call myself. We became partners,
right?
Running partners, right?
Tango and Cash.
Cash. There you go.
You can also say friends. That's okay.
Okay,
right.
We can edit that part. So they were all runners. Like they ran in college.
Yeah.
Don't say all, because I didn't in college.
But a lot.
I didn't
Be
run in
very
college
clear.
either.
But I know exactly what you're talking about, because when it was so intimidating. I don't know about how you felt, but it was so intimidating for me to show up to some of those runs, especially when I started running with Raw, because I show up, it's 100 degrees out. Mm-hmm. These dudes all got their shirts off. They're all chiseled and stuff. And here I am, like, a couple months sober, super insecure about where my place is in the world. You know what I mean? I hadn't gotten back to me yet, but all I knew is I liked this running thing. I loved the mental health effects it was having, and I loved the people that it was putting me around.
Yeah.
But it was intimidating first coming into it.
Yeah. And I've always been, like, be the dumbest guy in a room full of smart people.
Yep.
So the way I looked at it, I was the slowest runner in a room full of, really good runners. So at least I was, holding my own in a sense with them. Now, if I was in a room full of slow runners, then I'd be just another slow runner.
Right.
But I was challenging myself by just being around them. So that was like the biggest motivation I had with those guys.
So let me ask y'all too. So the first time you guys are standing in Fleet Feet, I imagine, where Jesus comes walking in, ready to run.
We were actually at so we always meet at a bar.
Okay.
We were actually at the bar, and he had ran with another guy who ran with Raw at the time before Cheyenne. And then the next week, something happened.
Yeah.
She couldn't show up. I was like,
And I was already on my way.
Yeah.
I was already in the Uber on my way.
yeah. So he shows up.
Oh, so you're about to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was already like 2 minutes away.
Okay.
So it's just basically.
Oh, so you're there now.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
She ends up not showing up. We're just like,
I got you.
yeah. What do you want me to do?
All right.
I mean, I think at the time he had like a shoestring. I don't even remember what she had. Yeah, it was a shoestring, right?
It was a
Your
shoestring,
high school coach taught you
Yeah.
that or something like
Yeah.
that? But it was more of a just, I have no fucking idea what I'm about to do. So you help me out, right?
Yeah.
But then it just became a communication thing at the
Right.
end of the day.
It's very hard to remember to use your words when
Yeah,
like
and you're not accustomed to
When
it.
you're just
Yeah.
like, come on this way.
just even in general. Yeah, but it's just like, oh, there's a step, and then you're like, you take for granted like what you can see obviously
Yeah.
right in front of you, and then like relaying it to your head because someone is with you.
Right.
Well, the shoestring, just so we're all on the same page here, is the shoestring acts as a tether between me and the guide.
Correct.
And I had nothing in my backpack other than that shoestring. I don't know why I had shoestring in there. I think that's what I was using at the time.
Cool.
And so we eventually evolved to something better. But, yeah, I showed up and I thought I was meeting with Cheyenne. Cheyenne guides people all the time. So I was just going off of whatever she was going to teach me. But since she didn't show up, Coach was there. And I was like, well, figure it out. And
Did he do well?
yeah, I mean, I'm still alive. So
Still
he's done well.
come back.
We had some
And-
incidents.
To top it all off, I think that day, excuse me, that day I think it started to rain pretty heavy. And so it was raining heavy, and Coach has never guided before. I never ran with Coach before. And we're just, this is really hilly, right, Austin, and these hardcore runners. And here I am just shuffling down the freaking hill. And it starts to rain on the way back. I mean, the water was like knee high, and I was like, what the hell am I doing out here, man? I could be at home right now, dry, not doing this.
All right.
But then I remembered, like, this is what I wanted to do, and I'm here, and I was having a blast. And we learned, I mean, it didn't take us long. And like Sarah said, it's all just communication.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, here's a step. But a lot of it, too, the reason that the tether is there is not just, to pull me along, but so I can feel what your body's doing, right? So when Sarah forgets, say, hey, Jesus, there's a step, I can feel that she just shrugged her shoulders, which means that she just took a step. So I'm going to go take my step, too.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're always one step ahead of me,
Right.
right? So if they go up, down, sideways, or whatever, or if they trip and fall, then I'm going to trip and fall with them. And so that's what the tether does. It doesn't just have them pull me along. It's also me reading their body.
If I've seen William run trails, so I can imagine if he was leading you on the road, you've had to have fallen at least a couple times.
Yeah, that I remember. And I've had guides that had run me into stuff, and that's just a part of the game. I ran with Jordy, so Jordy's another one of my guides. She ran me into a planner. She probably hates that I tell this story, but I like telling this story.
Sorry, Jordy.
Yeah. She ran me into a planner. Luckily, it was already towards the end of the workout. We're just coming back to home base, and my knee hit the corner of the planner, and it just, sliced it open. Luckily, there was no damage done to ligaments or anything like that.
Right.
I just had a pretty nasty scar now, but that's just part of the game. And
When that happens, are you talking shit to whoever your guide is?
no, they're out there on their own time helping me out. I'm never gonna, tell them anything like, "Hey, you fucked up." Sarah,
Even though if it's just as neat.
yeah,
I know he's always very in high spirits whenever I accidentally trip him or anything, and I'm always just like, I am so sorry. Like
yeah, and I always say,
you relay it later, and he's like, it's fine.
yeah, it's cool. It's
Par for the course.
I'm still alive.
Right.
Yep.
As long as you didn't, I'm not under an 18 wheel or anything like that. Then, but even if that happens, then I'm too dead to complain.
Right. Right.
But it happens, and it's just one of those things when I step out the door, not even just running, just maybe checking my mail. It's one of those things that I came to terms with a long time ago. That something can happen, me just checking my mail. I could walk outside, there could be a kid coming down the sidewalk on a skateboard, wipe me out.
Right.
So it's just part of life.
Right. What so you've run how many marathons?
I ran, let's see, 2 half marathons and 1 full one.
And was that Austin?
No, the full one was down in California at the CIM.
Okay.
California in Sacramento.
Ooh, destination race, my favorite.
It was fun.
It was a nice day. I would say that. Yeah. It was it was a marathon.
Right.
But it was just nice weather. It was a good time.
Y'all had us a little on the toasty side, I remember, though. For like,
I don't know. Coach had a hoodie.
No, it rained a little bit at the first, and then right at the end.
It was nice though.
yeah,
It was very. I mean the running part, of course, was hard, but the people that were out there cheering us on, man, that was pretty motivating.
Right.
I was like, why are these people out here? They could be at home right now watching cartoons. They're out here cheering for us.
Dude, that's one of the biggest differences for me with trail running or road running. At least in road running and you're running a marathon, you have people watching you. So even if you're suffering, you're like, oh, these people see me right now. I got to look strong.
Yeah.
When you're out deep in the woods and there's nobody seeing you, only at checkpoints, you're like, I can walk a little bit, right? Take it easy going up this hill.
We had a pretty badass playlist too.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we made it known that we were from Texas.
We had some,
did you run with your speaker that day?
Heck yeah.
Texas rap?
Nice.
Just tipping on 4 forward.
Let's go.
Yeah. People
go.
were walking up to us like, what did he just say? I'm like,
Are you a rap guy?
I'm a little bit of everything guy.
I would have for sure had some hip hop questions.
That was another thing. Jesus would run with a speaker, so it was like, it was great because you get a jam, but it's also like, whoa, like you're so in tune to like just feeling the tether that you can multitask. I don't know. I was very impressed.
I wouldn't have thought of that, but I mean, in all honesty, if you put a blindfold on me, I'm gonna for sure need to rely on my ears and everything else. Thank God gave me big ones so I can hear everything.
Well, see that the playlist was different running with these two. So with Sarah,
a lot of Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift.
He played Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
I didn't even have to ask.
No, because I already know Sarah. She's like, I'm gonna put it on before she even asked. So I would put on Taylor Swift.
And Coheed and Cambria.
It was a bunch of I got dump music.
So they were songs you really wanted to hear, but now it was your excuse.
Yeah.
Your excuse was Sarah.
Entirely. In my opinion.
Yeah.
I remember in my illustrious one semester of college that I did, big song at that time was Justin Timberlake, Cry Me a River. And I really, really liked that song. And I remember I was walking on the campus and the radio station was there that day and they were blaring that song. And so I'm like, all right, I can't nod my head or anything. I can't let anybody see I like this song.
So let's see smile.
But then it ended up being the remix with 50 Cent. So I was like, oh, all right, this is perfect. Now I can vibe out to it right out in the open. So who, you had said it before, David Goggins, who are inspirations to you? Because it's funny you say him because I remember, dude, at one of my lowest, I was sitting in the last treatment center that I went to before I had actually gotten sober. And it was there that I discovered Cam Haines and Jocko Willink. And at the time, those two dudes, I remember seeing what they were doing. And I was like, I didn't even know humans could do that.
Yeah.
Like, I've even been in the military. I didn't know people could run 100 miles or plus or anything like that. And I always held on to those two. And, like, I don't know about you, man, but, like, my mindset, for whatever reason, with dealing with addiction and my whole story, it's like once I was able to come out of it, like, I had a chip on my shoulder with everything I do. Like, I feel that I have something to prove to people and stuff like that. And so, like, I've still held on to those two guys. And it's like, I would say I'm in the gym more than Cam Haines now, and I wake up much earlier than Jocko Willink now, but I never thought that would be the case.
Yeah. Well, it was him for sure. He's probably the one, like, listening to his story, because he's also started off not a runner.
Right.
And it was like 300 pounds, I think, when he took his first step with running shoes. That was, it pretty much pushed me out the chair, but then around the time I started looking up, I was like, is that really a thing? People run, like you said, run 100 miles? So I started going online and looking the stuff up. And I came across I don't even know if they're the ones that started it. I don't know. But there's a big ultra marathon that happens down in Mexico, not too far away from where I was born.
Talk about Born to Run?
Yes.
Okay.
So I came across that and I was like, I know where that's at. These people run there? It's like, I thought it was just a big farming community. No, it turns out that it's a big running culture. And I was like, wait a minute. And I looked up it's a tribe that started running there. And my grandma, she's a descendant of that tribe. I was like, that's my grandma.
Oh, what? Are you serious?
Yeah. And I asked my mom, I was like, is this true? She's like, yeah, I thought you knew. And I was like, how am I supposed to know this? But it's like, yeah, everybody that lives in that area, they're all runners. And then so I started, I got really lost in that tribe. Like I started just reading about it. And they're barefoot running through these canyons and stuff. And that was like, whoa, that's I guess what started the whole inspiration. But then David Goggins, after hearing his stuff, is what pushed me out the chair. And finally, I was like, I got to find a way to start running.
Right.
So,
dude, that's amazing. What's it been like for you guys training him, like that whole process and like the thought of everything? That make sense?
Yeah, it is different because it's no longer about me.
Right.
And kind of like what Sarah was saying earlier, like you take everything that we take for granted, even the tiniest 1/4 inch lip on a sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Over it.
Yeah.
But now you have an individual who might not be able to see it, and now it's essentially a tripping hazard.
Right.
Like just the tiniest little thing. And so it's a whole different mentality and mindset. And what I had to learn from the get-go, our first incident, we were on a sidewalk, right? And in my mind, when I'm a solo runner, like I can bob and weave and duck in and out, and so I tried to do that with him. And he ended up rolling his ankle. It wasn't bad or anything, but at that moment, that was like the light went off for me about how there's nothing wrong with pausing and walking.
Right.
But in my mind, I can just like jump off the sidewalk and keep going.
Right.
But I can also see where my foot needs to land, the placement, right, left. Again, everything that we take for granted. And that was a big wake-up moment where it's just like, all right, there's nothing wrong with pausing, walking, taking some steps. But then that's also a whole nother set of communications that have to be learned and practiced.
Right.
But that was a big thing too. It's no longer about you. It's about the individual and the goals they want to accomplish.
Right. That's a better way to ask it. But Sarah, what would you say was your biggest learning lesson with?
You can't say mine.
My learning lesson with Jesus was...
sounds like going to the front of the classroom.
Honestly, I mean, with the tether, for me, it was like trusting how much slack to give, because...
I was going to ask that. Are you keeping it tight or you
most of the time, I think I would keep it tight until we got into a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially when other people around are like, you're suddenly coming into sidewalks and stuff. But a lot of the times once we hit the trail, like I would let it loose and he kind of could feel that. And it was nice because he could pick up speed and he can get pretty fast when he wants to.
Right.
And he, I think, is pretty aware of his breath work and stuff. So it's nice to run with someone who is like very perceptive in other ways, other than, because sometimes you run with people and they're not like in tune with what's happening in their body.
Right.
But he's very aware. So that was a fun realization to have.
And what? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the whole trust thing, man. I mean, she didn't know me and I didn't know her
Right.
at the time. And I mean, I did know Sarah before we started running together. Like, she was one of the first people I met at Raw. When I first met Sarah, she elbowed me in the stomach. I was standing there because I didn't know anybody at Raw, right? Other than Coach, And so I was just kind of standing there, just kind of waiting on Coach. He's like, all right, I'm parking, blah, blah. So I'm walking up really slow to where we meet. And I was like, okay, I'm still far away enough from people, so I'm not going to be in the way. I'll stand here. And Sarah was kind of where she is now, and she was having a conversation with somebody. She got really excited about whatever it was. And she just accidentally elbowed me in the stomach, and I was like,
sorry.
Girl.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't hard, but it hit like a girl.
You could obviously hear her from far away.
Yeah, obviously.
My high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
My high-pitched voice.
So then ever since then, I could always just spot out Sarah from the crowd. And
I would also make it known that it was there.
Yeah.
Do you want to do my voice?
No.
I would go, hello, hey sis.
She'll sneak up behind me.
Every time I saw him, he was like, hey Sarah. I was like,
Like a scary movie.
Yeah. But the fact that she didn't, flip out and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. She was just like, oh, dude, my bad. Like, I was like, okay, this girl's cool. She's, I don't know.
And that's what you'd prefer?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because there's people that, like, they'll bump into me and they'll just damn near start to cry. I'm like, dude, it's fine.
Yeah.
But started up with me in the stomach, and I was like, oh, that's cool, dude. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. And, it's part of being in a crowd.
Right.
And so I kind of was just spotted at the workouts and stuff, and then one day I asked her if she can guide, and she's like, yeah. And we didn't know.
5 in the morning.
5 in the morning.
5 in the morning.
And, yeah, I mean, the whole trust thing was my lesson, I guess, with any guide. Because here's this person I never met before. They're about to take me, guide me around places, parts that I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't feel anything else other than this tether and what's underneath my feet. And usually when I use my cane, I can feel, 3 feet in front of me. When I use my dog, I'm trusting him. But these complete strangers that are not my friends, that was like the big lesson for me. And trust, of course, is with guys, it's always like the big thing, the big lesson to learn, but I learned it.
Dude, that's good. Do you have I'm sure you already know this, but like, the longer distances you go up with races, the smaller percentages of people that have actually done them, right? And so there's a very small percentage of runners that will even ever do a half marathon or let alone a full marathon. You know what I mean? And so that it just speaks to more like, how the tenacity that you have to get it done. Do you, since this is the I Am Redemption podcast, do you have like a redemption moment where, through your whole journey, everything you've been through, the depression and everything, where you accomplished something or did something or just had something happen to you where you just took a look around and you're like, oh, I'm here. I made it.
Yeah. Like I said, my goal was to never quit.
Right.
So by me not quitting, then I already won. I was already in first place. I might have been the last one from the marathon to cross the finish line, but I was already in first place before I even started.
Right.
Just because I was already there. So when I finished the marathon, which was probably the hardest, run, when I said I still can't say it without sounding stupid about it, but I was like, I'm a marathon runner.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And if you would have told me back in college or in high school or at any point in my life, like, you're going to be a marathon runner, I would have probably never believed you.
Right.
Because I'm like, nah, man, running's for skinny dudes, running's for guys that can't pick up weight, all these ego-minded sort of things. But to finish it, and then after the pain finally wore off after like 3-4 days, I was like, holy crap, I finished a marathon. I'm a marathon runner. I would have never thought that.
Right.
So that was probably the one thing I would say to myself.
It's awesome.
You didn't even talk about the best part.
What part?
When you cross the finish line.
Yeah. And so it was, coach guided me through the whole marathon. Well, not all of it. So we're going, mile 1, mile 26, and we're chugging along fine. And we get to the top of this hill where you have to make a left and then you just shoot down the finish line.
Yep.
Coach says, all right, we're about to make this left. When I say, I'm going to count to 3 and I'm going to let go. And I thought it's because he had to adjust his, whatever he was wearing or with the tether or something. He counts to 3 and he lets go. And he said, go. I was like, Coach, where'd you go? I was like, I'm right here. Just keep going. You're going to cross the finish line by yourself. And I was still yards away, maybe like a football field away. And it was a pretty emotional moment because I'm like, dude, I'm about to finish a marathon by myself. Not with Coach. Coach was there. All I had to do was just go down the hill. The hardest part was already over. But the fact that I crossed the finish line by myself was pretty intense for me. Then I crossed it, then the nurse had to catch me to stop me because I just kept on running. But, yeah, that was, I think all the training and all the waking up 4:30 in the mornings and the cold weather, I think that's what made it all worth it. those last 30 seconds.
Dude, you got me tearing up right now. You're giving me goosebumps.
And just to be clear too, he introduced this in training runs and workouts, because I mean there were times where I was wearing fucking bells around my ankles and shit like that, because he would listen to me run ahead of him, and so we had no tether at that time, right? So we had done stuff like this before, where even with a tether, he'd be like, let me let go for a little bit, and I'd make sure we had a clear enough roadway, right? And even in the marathon, I was still calling out anything that might have been in front of him, especially at the finish line where the mats were, right? Because I didn't want him to trip over the mats. So it was something that he had originally introduced, and I didn't even think about it till about halfway through. And I was like, let's see what the finish line looks like, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, it was.
So as soon as you turned in front of the Capitol and hit that straightaway, you let go. Dude, I can see it in my mind right now.
Yeah.
So even the pictures, right? Like the finish line photos, I'm kind of like ducked off to the side. But yeah, even the nurse came up, because I guess she was freaked out or something, because she saw a blind runner crossing the finish line with no guide. So this nurse comes running up to him like, yo, chill, don't
back up.
Well, not that, but like, don't startle him, right? Because I'm verbally calling out things, right? Like, oh, there's 2 mats at the finish line, step.
Right.
But yeah, it was one of those things where clearly she didn't know what was going on.
And I didn't know what was going on either. I mean, it was not planned at all. I was like, we never talked about it or whatever. And that's what kind of just got me all up here, man. And I was already, towards the end of the marathon, not even towards that, halfway through the marathon, I was already hurting. And I was already just like, ow, ow, everything was hurting. And as soon as coach did that, and I realized what he just did, they say that you always catch your second, wind or whatever when you're running. That's probably when I caught my second wind, and my body it stopped hurting at the time, because, I'm holding on to the tether, so this arm isn't moving that much, right? Because I have to read what he's doing. So it's not like I'm just swinging it around.
Right.
This arm, I try to just keep it not swinging around either, but I was already hurting all the way down to my fingertips. And when he did that, and I realized what he did, like all of it went away, and I put my hands up in the air because I felt like a champ.
Right.
And I'm crossing this finish line by myself, and it was just that moment's really hard to relive.
Yeah.
Just had to be there.
Right. No, I get it.
So,
I don't know if did William ever tell you what he did to me?
No.
I mean, it's very good, but so we did when the documentary and the film came out, it was during COVID time, and so as soon as all that got lifted, we ended up doing a big event downtown at this place called Fair Market. And so this was the first time that people in live were going to watch the documentary. And I remember showing up that day, and there's 300 seats, and there's 3 huge TV screens and stuff like that. And I remember just looking around, and I was like, there's no way people are going to come to this. Like, there's going to be empty seats everywhere. And so as the day went on, I remember I did a little news spot earlier in the day, and after that I kind of lost my shit, got all emotional, just because I'm like, how is this all happening in my life? And so everybody watches the film. The seats were packed. There wasn't an open seat anywhere, and so they had us come up on stage, and it was me, the director, and Will, and you were the MC. And I remember he had asked me how things were with my family, and so that's a big. I don't know if you've ever were around the film to know about it, but it was a big part of it is me rebuilding the relationship with my family as I'm running this 100-mile race.
Yeah.
And I remember when I looked over first he had asked me how things were with my family present day, and I told him about it, and I was like, man, we're what a family should be. And I remember he looked over at me, and he was like, Sean, I've never lied to you, but something about you had kind of withheld the truth that day. And I was like, what is he talking about? And then I look over, and in front of 300 people, my mom comes walking up onto the stage, and I lose I thought I had my emotional bit for the day, and then that was done. And so when she come walking up on stage, I completely lost my shit in front of everybody crying. But I don't know what it was like for you, but that moment was so hard to put into words, for me, just all the emotions I felt and what happened.
I know exactly what you mean, because there was 2 times when that happened to me. So this marathon, there was parts of it throughout the marathon where I'm running, and I have a brother that he's a really good runner, and we're not a close family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the word love doesn't exist in our home. There was never any hugs, nothing like that. But I was tired. I wanted to quit, and I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if my brother's proud of me, because they'd never been proud of me. Oh man, he gave me up here. Why are you asking me questions about? But there was moments like that where I'm like, I wonder if my brother saw me, because the only times he was running in track cross country, he had scholarships for all these schools. He would be training, and I'd be over here with the neighborhood kids getting into trouble. I mean, that's how he saw me.
Yeah.
Growing up. And, you know, he joined the military. I hardly ever saw him after that. And then my grandma.
Hey, sure. It's all right. Take a minute.
Back in 2012, I was working at this gym in Dallas, and I decided to do a bodybuilding competition. And to me, you know, the gym, the weight room was just the place that I always go to ever since I was a kid. So I finally decided to do like a bodybuilding competition, and everybody in the gym was doing it. A lot of the coworkers are doing it. So I got up there, and I won 5th place out of, I don't even know how many people were there, how many competitors. My brother was there. It was on a Saturday. My brother called me up. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I got to go to bed early. Like, nobody knew in my family that I was training for this, that I was working out for this, that I was waking up, eating these meals that I had to eat, living off of tablespoons of applesauce every 35 minutes. You know, they didn't know any of that. So I get off stage, they give me my trophy. I walk backstage, and my mom was there, my grandma. I was like, what is my grandma doing here, man? You know, and my grandma at the time, she was, 82? 81, 82. So there's this 81-year-old lady in a room full of half-naked dudes. And she was so proud of me. And I was so emotional because I would have never thought in a million years that they would be there. And the reason they didn't know I was going through any of that, like, you know, training, is because they don't, like I said, we're not a close family. So to seek support, saying like, Mom, I'm training for this marathon or this bodybuilding competition, whatever, it was never like, I'm going to call them so they can pet me up and, you know, just kind of encourage me. It was never that. It was always just by myself and whoever I was around at the time. Or sometimes there was nobody around, so it was just all me. So when my mom and my grandma were there, it was pretty intense. And they said, why didn't you tell us? I was like, I don't know. I didn't know you really cared. So when I was going through the marathon, and yeah, they were proud of me. You know, they took pictures and all this stuff. And I was like, wow. So that was a lot bigger than the trophy I just had.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the trophy's still there. I could order a trophy on Amazon.
All right.
I can't order a grandma on Amazon.
Right.
Well, not my grandma.
Right.
Come on.
But then the marathon, since, you know, like I said earlier, my grandma was like a descendant of that tribe. And that was like a big thing that got me into running. I was like, man, my grandma was here. I wonder if she'd be out here with all these people who cheer me on, or if she'd be at the finish line, you know, waiting to not nag me, but to say like, why you're even running out here? You know, we should be in church, sort of thing.
Right.
But when I thought of those moments, yeah, I mean, I tear up for a second, and I just, you know, kept going. That was maybe a mile 11, I think that happened, mile 16, mile 20, when everything, they say mile 20 is like when everything starts to break down, and it does. If it's your first marathon, I think. That's when I thought about my brother. And I was like, if he can get all these scholarships, and he weighs 120 pounds, the small dude, and he's like the family favorite, I wonder if he'd be proud of me at mile 20 I said, what about mile 21? What about mile 26? And then coach, let's go. And I said, fuck that. I'm proud of myself, man. And I finished.
Dude, that's fucking beautiful. That's fucking beautiful.
And, I mean, nobody was there. Coach was there. Sarah was there. I was surprised Sarah was there. I mean, I knew she was going, but I saw her
My
in mile.
sister also ran.
Yeah, your sister ran. But I saw
Many people ran.
Sarah was there, mile 2? Mile
I was
5?
there
I don't know. You were in the
the whole
beginning.
time.
She was there in the beginning. It's like, oh, Sarah's here. That's cool. We're right. But as far as family and relatives now, I have relatives that live not too far from Sacramento. And I thought about calling them. I was like, no, I'm not going to tell them to drive all the way over here just for this, man. So when you say that you saw your family in the crowd, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. Because when you go through all this, like, training, waking up early, the nutrition, staying on track, not quitting, staying focused, like, I can go out tonight and just cancel on coach in the morning, but no, I'm not going to do that. There was a lot of that, right? That's what, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Dude, when my family was there at the end of my race, I said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know y'all cared this much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you speaking about your grandmother, my reference for that is my best friend from the military. I had told this story recently on the podcast, but he hung around me so much where he became desensitized to drugs, right? And so he ended up going off away from me once he got stationed in another base and used and never woke up.
Yeah.
Laid down for a nap, never woke up again. And so I've always carried that guilt, of my best friend and that happening. And that's why the only way I could kind of reconcile it in my own mind is, if there's a God and there's a heaven and he's looking down on me, if I'm that lucky that he's still looking down on me, then I'll make damn sure every single thing I do, I'm making him proud.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I live my life. And dude, I can guarantee you that your grandma is looking down on you, and she was proud of you that day. Because I already know I wasn't even there, and I know how proud of you I am. So I can only imagine how proud of you she was.
And it's crazy that you say that, man, because I have a friend that he also didn't make it. Here from San Antonio, actually. He called me one day, and I ignored his call. Because he was going through some rough times. He just got married 6 months later. His wife's cheating on him. I mean, he just wasn't doing good. He calls me up one day. I ignore the call. I don't even remember why. He left me a voicemail. And this is my best friend from college. And I get a text or something like that saying that he just passed away. And I find out what happened, and I find out that he overdosed.
Mm-hmm.
And he was calling. I don't know. I don't even like to think of why he was calling, because it would just drive me nuts. He left me a voicemail. It took me a whole year to listen to that voicemail. And all he said was what he would always say. Hey, he just says, what are you doing? It was just nothing, right? I was like, hey, what are you doing? Call me back. But to hear his voice, I'm like, that was probably one of the last things he ever said.
Mm-hmm.
He was calling me. Fuck, man. And at the time, I think I was, I'd started to run, so my life was starting to change. A little bit more on the positive side and stuff. I wasn't just partying all the time, getting fat. So I was like, man, if I was able to, go run or do something positive to kind of get me out of some dark times, then, I mean, how come there's people that just never make it out?
Right.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. But when I would walk out to wait on coach, it's 4:30 in the morning. There's nobody out there. I'm just like, dude, I'm out here. Like I'm pulling myself through whatever it is, even just a bad day, even just a bad tummy ache, even, but I'm out here, and it's one step forward in the right direction. And there's people that just never make it out.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kind of moments that kind of keep me going. And it sucks, man, because I wish, my friend was there at the marathon. I wish he was there to celebrate. I know he would have been there to celebrate because the guy liked to party.
All right.
But when it was dark times, man, he didn't make it through. And I'm not saying, I mean, it's just like, was I stronger than he was? And like, you know, your friend, you finally, you know, realize like what I'm doing is not right. I gotta find a way out this box. So does that mean you know, you're stronger than your friend, or was he just weaker than you?
Yeah.
So it's just crazy when you think about it like that.
Yeah, it is. The only thing I do know, and I say it all the time, is, you know, who I am sitting here today. I have a very profound understanding that I've had to go through every single thing that I have. Unfortunately, people got hurt along the way, but I wouldn't change a thing because I know who I am today. I love who I am today, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all those things that made me who I am. It's your whole journey made you who you are.
Yeah, and there was, I mean, all the, you know, bad times, good times. Yeah, it makes us who we are today. There was something that I was offered back in 2014. There was this doctor out of Waco, I think. Anyways, he said, "Hey, you know, there was a research project going on. I think it's still going on, and you know, it's evolving. I think there's like big pharma getting involved, but it's basically to cure the genetic mutation that I got, right? To get rid of blindness."
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me, "Do you want to take part?" And I said no. And then I told some of my friends about it. I told my cousin, and my cousin said, "Why don't you, man? Like, come on, like, wouldn't you want to?" I was like, "Nah, dude, because it's who I am."
Mm-hmm.
Because if I wasn't blind and I would have ran that marathon, nobody could care less.
Yeah.
Right? I was just another runner out there by myself, or probably with a group of friends, whatever. It's who I am, and for me to not give up on the smallest things, I'm like, man, I just don't even want to do this anymore. I don't want to go to work. I just live off the government. Blah, blah, blah. It makes me who I am.
Yeah.
Even in a different spotlight, you know. If I go, let's say, to the club, I'm just another guy at the club. But now, if I go right now, I'm a guy that's blind at the club doing what everybody else is doing at the time. So if I wasn't blind, then I wouldn't be, I guess I just wouldn't be me, you know?
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to explain that for people to understand it, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right. I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So let's say there's somebody out there listening to this episode. They just heard your story. They're going through it. You know, maybe they're feeling bad for themselves and they can't bring themselves to get up out of bed, but they need to go run or they need to do something like that. Or maybe it's somebody who has the same thing you do and they're a young kid. What would your advice to them be?
Just go through it. I mean, people always say cheer up, stop thinking about it, but I think the only way I was able to deal with it is to literally deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
All those times I just sat down in the dark room and thought about it. I mean, it had to happen. Just as long as they don't try to hurt themselves, then I guess just, you know, let those people go through it. Or if you're going through it, you have to fight your way through.
Right.
You know, it's not like they're gonna, you know, with me, the coach wasn't gonna carry me to the finish line. I had to run through all those miles.
Well, I couldn't have physically.
Relentless forward progress, man. That's the only way you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
That or you're just going to sit in it forever.
There was when I started to run, I wanted to do this challenge because I thought running was just running. I was like, it's easy, dude. I wanted to sign up for this thing that was going on in California called Seal Fit.
Mm-hmm.
So I called them up, and they're like, well, can you run 10 miles right now? I was like, no. I said, well, you run 10 miles and call us back. And the guy called me back, and he's like, hey, man, I just want to, like, I'm wondering, like, why do you want to do this? And I told him my reasons. My reasons were, you know, both of my brothers are in the military, and they're all, you know, a bunch of medals all over their chest and stuff. I was like, I don't know, man. I just feel like I should do something like my brothers, and this is probably the closest thing I can ever have to is the military, whatever. He's like, so you want to do something your brothers did? I said, yeah. I said, well, we got a lot of guys showing up, signing up, and they're doing it. But let me ask you this. And I said, what? It's like, if your brothers go blind tomorrow, do you think they can live like you? I said, hell no. One of them wouldn't make it, and the other one would have a hard time. He said, well, there you go. It's like, you're doing something nobody else can right now.
Yeah.
I was like, so you don't need to show up. It's like, if you want to, come on by, but just change your reason why you're showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me think about it. I'm like, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Me going to the grocery store and me running these miles, all these things, literally with your eyes closed. There's a lot of people that can't do it.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't even do it. I know a lot of people that just blew their brains out because they just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
I knew a guy, he literally just ran into traffic. He came back from war. He had lost his eyesight. He didn't want to deal with it. Everything else was fine. He could still move, he could still get up, still talk, everything. But he just figured the easiest way was a way, or, just think it was all life.
Right. Dude, thank God for you, man. So I have some fun questions for you. This is just to help the people get to know you a little bit better. Oftentimes we could tell a story, but you don't know the person, right?
Yeah.
So just first thing that comes to mind, I'll throw the questions out there. You let me know what you think, all right?
All right.
What is your favorite running shoes? When I met you, you were in the 5 Finger shoes.
Actually, those are my favorite.
Are they?
Yeah, that you reminded me of them.
Byers?
Yeah.
Did you run a marathon in 5 Finger?
No, I got a lot of crap before I even thought about it, saying like, Coach, I'm running these. But
Well, you tried
I
that.
tried it. And I remember Cole saying like, oh, dude, you're not going to do those. No, don't do it. Trust me. I'm a barefoot guy, and I'm telling you no. I'm like, well, if Cole says no, then it's a no.
Right.
Cole's another guy from the running crew.
Gotcha.
But those are probably my favorite just because they're so comfortable, so light. And when my hardest part when running is my balance.
Mm-hmm.
When you get these shoes with all the support and all kinds of stuff, it throws my balance off.
Right.
Right. I can't feel the ground that fast. You're just bouncing. Right.
Mhm.
It's just like running on moon shoes for me.
Yep.
So those 5 Finger shoes, I could feel every little pebble, and I still have a sense. So those are probably my favorite.
Right. Good answer. Do you have a favorite quote, or do you have maybe a favorite saying that either Coach or Sarah used to always say that got to you?
No, not that I remember. Do y'all remember?
No.
Ours were song lyrics.
Yeah, no. Coach's favorite quote was no. No. Can you stop? No.
We slow down? No.
That was probably his.
Can we get ice cream? No. Can we go to Dairy Queen?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. I mean, if it was anybody else, and I've had other guys who were like, hey, dude, can we stop? Can we just walk? Yeah, sure, no problem.
Right.
But Coach was like, no. And the end,
that's why he's earned the name Coach.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, at the end, at the time I was pissed, but at the end I was like, I'm glad he didn't let me quit.
Right.
Right.
Good shit. All right. So, what is your fight song? What's your one song that gets you jacked up, ready to go, and you're ready to take on the world?
Jeez, man, I don't know. It's hard to pick one song.
First one that comes to mind.
Probably I think by DJ Screw.
Oh, okay. Which one?
Any of them, man. I'm not gonna pick one of those, but that's hard.
Just that deep, nasty beat.
Yeah. It just relaxes the mind in a way.
Yep.
You're about to do a lot of the same stuff, and you just have to relax.
Right. Sorry, Sarah. It's not Taylor Swift.
I'm fine with it now.
So because I know you're a bit of an Eagles fan, I got a question for you. If you had to pick right now, one game, you got prime Randall Cunningham or prime Jalen Hurts, who you picking?
Cunningham.
Let's go. You were born a year after me, so we're in the same era. Randall Cunningham was nasty. All right. Are you like with all the games all year?
No, I try to stay off I try just to enjoy a good game rather than follow a team.
Okay.
Like a cult.
Gotcha.
So I mean, when they play, I watch it, but I just try not to.
Was that a jab at me?
Wow. So he's a Packers fan.
Packers owner.
Huh? Oh, Packers owner. Sorry, he is an owner.
It was on the television.
Do we think? My question for you is: do we think over or under? Do you think Eagles will go 10-7? Over or under? Over? Let's go. All right. Last football question: who's going to be better this year, the Packers or the Jets?
Oh. Oh. Well, see, I want to give him to Austin.
It is.
And I also want to be honest with your crowd, so I'll say the Jets.
Ooh, let's go. Let's
That
go.
would be a good game.
Are they playing?
I don't think so.
No.
Unless we meet in the Super Bowl.
Are we playing? Do the Steelers play the Packers this year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's
that's
on the
right.
calendar.
Right.
You got the invite.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I have a bet with Audie
Oh,
because he's a Ravens fan. So if the Steelers beat the Ravens, we have to wear each other's jersey. Vice versa, if whoever wins.
You think you'll fit in his jersey though?
Good point. Good point. That might be my out. That might be my out right there.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude, it tore.
You know, man size Audi.
Right. All right. Just give me first word that comes to mind when I throw these terms out. Running.
Sucks.
Family.
Eh,
Good answer. Is that your answer?
yeah.
All right. United States of America.
The first word that comes to mind?
Yeah.
Taxes.
I had a wild discussion with my brother-in-law who works in D.C. and is very, very liberal, and
Yeah.
he was sharing his feelings on things. And I said, well, what about like the economy and inflation right now? And he's like, what inflation? And I was like, have you gotten groceries or gas recently? Like, what are you talking about? All right, next term, health.
Health important.
Important, good. And last one, Eagles. Rock? Like they rock?
Like the Eagles team rocks. Like,
All right, good shit.
Back on.
Good shit. So do you got any races on the horizon? You got anything exciting you're working on?
No. I think anytime I sign up for something, it's usually because I'm at the bar drinking with a bunch of runners. And somehow
They coax you into it?
I sign up and I wake up and I'm like, the hell did I just do last night? It's never like, oh, I just woke up next to this ugly girl. No, it's like, oh, crap, I just signed up for another half.
What's the next big race coming up?
For me?
In general and all?
We could do San Antonio half. You want to do San Antonio in December?
It's too hilly out here, man.
It's not that bad, right?
It's too much food to run by. You kidding me? We'll stop at every taco.
You have great food afterwards.
Yeah?
But you got something currently
Remember the
that you're
finish line.
chasing after, right?
I do
It's temporarily paused. due to
Yeah,
injury.
so there is another thing I'm doing aside from running, just because I want to give my knees a break from running, and just to see if I still got it. So I have a fitness goal in mind. It's probably going to take me a little longer now, but it's to hit 500-pound bench press. So that's going to be a while. But
500.
yeah, so I was at 355 and I hurt my elbow, so I had to take a pause.
Don't tear your pec.
No, and I'm like I said, I'm looking at it like the marathons and the halves, right? I'm not a month away trying to jump in the race, and I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to say, okay, in 2 months I'm gonna hit 500. No, I'm just trying to say I'm gonna get there, and this is my goal. This is my marathon now.
Let's go. Well, if you, I have a guy who is a coach in Austin. He's put up 500 and he did it at the Olympia. So if you want to get connected with anybody, I got you.
Yeah, because I can't do that shit.
How much is 500?
Let's just be clear.
How much is 100?
5 views. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, man, that was a big thing I had to learn in the beginning.
Should I say it so they can hear it? All right. So how do you balance running and weight training?
So that was a hard thing I had to learn how to do. Because the weight room for me was an everyday thing. I wake up, drink a cup of coffee, go to the weight room. That's how I wake up.
Still today?
Yeah, I still do it now, but like I said, I take a pause. But no, I still do it now, not just every day. I do about 3 times a week or so.
Okay.
I thought, I was like, I can hack it, right? Like I could wake up, go lift a bunch of weight, and then go run at night, and then go to sleep and do it all over again. But I eventually had to learn that, excuse me. if I am going to go to the weight room in the morning, don't go so hard in the running session the night before. Or if I'm going to go really hard in the running session, don't go so heavy in the weight room. And I also had to learn the nutrition, because the nutrition for both sports is different.
Very different.
Right? So in weightlifting, you want a bunch of protein and a bunch of, fat and carbs. In running, you want more carbs than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to eat carbs was a really hard mental thing. I'm like, man, if I eat this tablespoon of beans and rice, I'm going to get so fat.
Right.
Blah, blah, right. But then I had to learn that this is actually what's helping me out.
Right.
And then I had to say what's more important right now is that the weight room, we're finishing this half. So then the nutrition had to change a lot.
Yeah.
Because when I showed up to Raw, man, I was a chubby dude. Shut up, sir. But yeah, I was pretty hefty. Still chubby today, but
No, you're not. What gym do you go to?
LA Fitness.
Okay.
Yeah, by my house. They have a hot tub. I like it.
Yeah. Well, we all need to get in there very soon. You gonna come?
That'd be awesome, man.
I'm really bad at balancing the weight things, so don't ask. Yeah, I'll try. I will be there. What?
Taylor gets in the gym.
You'll just see you. I know Taylor's in the gym.
If I see Taylor in the gym, you can get in the gym.
He tells me I need to get in the gym too, and then I check out. Okay.
Well, dude, I cannot thank you enough. I appreciate you so much for your vulnerability today. I want you to know that you are an inspiring fucking dude and that you inspire people today. I can guarantee it.
Wow.
I wanted to thank you too for coming and showing your support. Really appreciate it. Y'all have always showed me support in my journey. I know you're showing support to this gentleman, and bro, you could not have two. I know you know this, but you could not have two better people in your corner.
That's why they're here, man.
Jesus is a good corner to be in.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. So, look, you got anything else?
Well, so you got Coach and Sarah here, but there was a lot of other people along the way that are not here, because I mean, I would have to invite 60 freaking runners to show up.
Right.
You don't want that in here. I don't want that in here. But there was some other people, like, I just wanted to mention their names. So you have Jordy Widow. Is that how you say her last name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jordy. There was also a lot of fun training with her. You mainly talk about clothes. Yeah. And then there was, of course, Parsh Shaw. You know, he'll be mad if I don't say his name here. It was Parsh Shaw. Parsh Shaw, he's one of the guys in charge of Raw, the running group.
Yeah.
And he made it.
Wild boy.
Yeah, he's a wild boy, man. And he made it a point to help me out. So so Raw is not the first running group I walked into. There was several other places, and they pretty much, it was like one and done sort of thing. Bars made it a point to have a guide there. If Coach wasn't there, if Sarah wasn't there, he'd bring somebody into doing it. There was Nathaniel. He helped me out. There was a lot of Alejandro recently. So there was a lot of other guys, not just these two, that helped me out from the first workout all the way to the end of the marathon. And the people that was just there to cheer me on as they were running by, they're like, "Hey, Jesus, come on, you got this." I'm like, "How are you going so fast?" It was all that was motivation. So there's a lot of people here that I wish I could thank personally, but I mean, I guess they know who they are.
All right.
So,
well, good. Well, brother, I'll thank you again, man. It was a pleasure having you on. I can't wait to hear about this next endeavor you got going. How it goes.
Hopefully, I'll get there soon.
All right.
Or sooner than later.
All right. Last thing we do. This is the I Am Redemption podcast. So, if you would, just in a couple I Am statements, tell everybody who you are.
Like I said earlier, the one that I just, for a while, I was freaking tweeting about it. I'm a marathon runner, and I still can't believe it when I say it. There isn't much I like to say about myself. That's the thing. I mean, I'm a marathon runner.
That's perfect, man.
I'm Jesus. There's a lot of definitions that people have about me, like Sarah and Coach are gonna have two different definitions about me, but at the end of the day, like I'm Jesus, and what everybody has to say about me is who I am.
All right.
It's in a name.
It's in the name. Yeah.
That is a first for this podcast that somebody used their name, and that was fucking perfect. I love it.
Pretty spot on.
That was great. All right, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Hey, Sean.